It is an honor to have Dr. Marcel Vanderwatt join us. Welcome, Marcel, back to the Warriors. Happy New Year, first of all. I am so honored that you're joining us because we need to talk more about this ending demand. We're going to get into that truths, facts, and you're the person to share all of this with us regarding this explosive sex trade, not only in the United States, but also across the globe. And I want to share resources with the public today to get them involved because that's what we need, more warriors to help us end this demand, to know what's happening. Um,
Mm.
we are not hearing enough, in my opinion, Marcel, about all of this. So I think 2024, wake up America, wake up world, speak up, take action. Let's first talk to Dr. Marcel Vanderwatt. He is an internationally recognized former sex trafficking police investigator, hostage negotiator, and currently the Research Institute Director at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation in Washington, D.C. The website is endsexualexploitation.org. You can also follow him at, that is Marcel, Marcel underscore HT on X, or as I like to call it still, Twitter. So welcome, Dr. Marcel Vanderwatt. How are you today?
Lynn, always great to be on your show, and just thank you for your certitude and persistence in raising this issue wherever you can.
Well, I want to thank you because I can't do my job without you because I use all of your information. And look, we're in the midst of January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So I want you to explain what this month means and what you want us to know. We're going to start here about this month.
Mm, mm. Well, last year the President Biden made a proclamation. I think that it's this month. January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and it's all about demystifying human trafficking, what it's all about. And unfortunately, Lynn, one thing that we really and infrequently speak about is really what drives the market forces around sex trafficking and prostitution. And the work here, what we do here is all about the issue of people who buy sexual access to women and children. We believe without them, this problem would not exist. So many angles to this issue. Everybody has got a role to play. Prevention mean many things to many people. We talk about primary prevention. Without the sex buyers, we will not have the problem of sex trafficking the way that we are currently experiencing it in the United States.
I don't know why we're not out screaming this part of we know human trafficking, sex trafficking. We know it's bad. I have to be
Mm,
honest with you, Marcel. Like, I'm tired of hearing that. We know it's all bad. We
mm.
have to stop it. We have to intervene. It's the sex buying. It's ending the demand. It's everything you speak about and study about. True or false? Let's start here. There is a connection between sex trafficking and sex buying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you think about it, traffickers may be the one who, uh, you know, victims of trafficking often sold into prostitution. Money may be exchanging, right? But at the end of the day, every dollar that's paid for these exploitative acts are being paid by a sex buyer. So sex trafficking cannot exist without sex buyers.
And that's an important fact. I want everybody to understand that intersection. Let's talk about demand.
Mm,
Again, people are not talking about this enough. The public in general has a hard time. You know this. This is the reality, even talking about human trafficking, sex
mm.
trafficking. Um, how can we really, very basically, give us our landscape, give us our lesson? How do you believe and how do you know we can end this demand? Like, where should we start? Because I get that usual argument. It's so big and overwhelming. Like, I
Mm.
don't know where to start. What do you think?
Lynn, we've got all the tools. We've got all the tools to stop this and to see a drastic decline within a couple of weeks and a couple of months' time. I think there's many layers to this. Firstly, I think we always need to listen to the experience of those who've actually been sold in the sex trade. I mean, survivors and the emic and the insider perspectives that they have in terms of the different cogs of the system, the role of sex bias, the role of indifference, societal indifference. That is a perspective. And also, obviously, that rich experiences, unfortunately, very, very bad experiences by survivors, but that they can share, to increase our knowledge and kind of peripheral visioning around the issue of human trafficking. Then there is at least 15 demand reduction tactics. We've got the law. So the thing is, a law should never be a paper tiger. Once a law is not being enforced, if there's a prescribed action, laws are there to be used. If not, it's a paper tiger and it's not going to scare anybody. And then we've got these tactics. So that the tactics are generated around the notion that certain actions are illegal and prescribed. And we've done the research, Lynn. I mean, we've looked at these tactics over a period of 3 years, the last 3 years, and there are at least 15 of them. One thing that we do know, sex buyers do not want to be exposed. They do not want their employer, their significant other, spouse, children, community, or congregation to know that they are purchasing sex. This is a visceral fear that these guys have. So one of the tactics we use is identity disclosures, where there's an implicit, where sex buyers know, look, if you are being caught purchasing or trying to purchase sexual access to somebody else, your identity will be disclosed. Augmenting that is when law enforcement then informs the employer. And there's another tactic, employment loss. There's auto seizures, there's license suspensions, there's John schools. And then AI, that's also coming into the bigger scheme of things and is making a significant impact in actually deterring it. So ultimately, we need to create a hostile environment for sex buyers, and all hands need to be on deck, and chiefly, those survivors who've really experienced every possible dark crevice of this trade.
I'm glad you brought up survivors because I think we need to hear more from them and listen to their lived experience. For instance, I can showcase it, but I haven't been trafficked. I haven't lived it. So we have to hear more of their voices and I think figure out a way where we can with the public, very carefully, because we don't want those dog and pony type shows or any sort of exploitation, but really take their lived experiences and share that to rather maybe perhaps shock people into taking action. I want to say what you just explained, like exposing. Of course, I'm in New York City. If I had my way, Marcel, I'd be flashing them in Times Square on these big billboards, I'd be doing that. Why is it so difficult, for this accountability? What is your opinion? Why aren't we doing this? Not that any of this is simple, but it seems very simple to me that if we had more exposure of these sex buyers, okay, this is twofold. There's that, which I never understand. We need more exposure because, again, as you pointed out, they don't want to be exposed and be known in their communities or their family members. And also, we do have legislation. Give us an update on legislation we have and what's in the future. What's going on with new legislation?
Let's start with the legislation. Last year, the state of Maine was, I think, the first state that came up with a equality model, or we could refer to it as a accountability model, effectively the model that's been used in Sweden, where we say, let's hold men accountable, let's hold the demand side of the equation accountable, and let's remove laws that target those people selling sex, because we know research is well documented that the sex trade preys on vulnerability. Many of the people, women selling sex, children, are communities, lack of education, homelessness, poverty, runaway, etc. So the Maine law sets an incredible precedent locally, saying, listen, let's remove laws and let's build off ramps out of the sex trade, right? And hold the men accountable. Unfortunately, we still have this ongoing battle around the issue of full decriminalization, which is incredibly disingenuous, and not acknowledging what's really happening in the sex trade. So Maine has really lifted the bar in terms of a just approach to holding men accountable, buyers accountable, paving off ramps for those being sold into it. But again, on the issue of accountability, Lynn, I think that, again, why we need to listen to survivors is because when you speak to survivors and the research out there, you realize that there are people in positions of power people in official capacities that purchase sex. We've documented several cases of frontline law enforcement officers purchasing sex or purchasing sexual access to people. We've got amazing law enforcement officials out there, and unfortunately, there's a few, a few bad ones that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But the non-linear effect and what that communicates to a large volume of marginalized people is saying, well, law enforcement are not to be trusted. So we cannot allow those individuals to dictate what we consider law enforcement roles should be. I think there's the Epstein case as well, power, official complicity. There's so many angles to this, but it comes down to accountability and political will. Without political will, we will not even be able to employ these very day-to-day law enforcement tactics. We need political will, even on that granular level, to make this work. It's a bottom-up and a top-down approach.
Listen, my mind is spinning as you just said that, because I am right now, I will say I'm fired up about whether it's Republicans, whether it's Democrats. Like this is a bipartisan issue. All of this belongs to no political party. These are human rights abuses and escalating, as you and me are sitting here discussing this. I want all of them. I don't understand why they're allowing this, to happen and escalate, and especially as you well know, the ages are getting younger and younger. We have so many children involved in this. And I have to say, I'm in a panic, and I'm a warrior about this AI, this artificial intelligence that we're now kind of, sitting on, because we know online fuels a lot of the predation, and we've got servers in other countries and all that. Share some thoughts about all of that. Like, what do you think some people should be looking at, the public, or I'm giving you kind of a loaded question. What do you want people to look at right now with all of this?
Yeah, I think what one should be just, always apply a healthy dose of skepticism, especially parents, when you start playing around and exploring AI tools, AI chats, even an AI girlfriend or an AI boyfriend on these platforms. I think the guardrails are fundamentally off at the moment, Lynn, and what that means is developers are not being held accountable in terms of algorithmic accountability that informs some of these large language models that makes up a AI chatbot or a AI boyfriend or girlfriend. So I think it's really the Wild West out there at the moment, and we do see an increasing number of reports of, amongst others, how these hostile AI chatbots engages with unassuming people online. We know the issue of deepfake pornography is very, very real, and how easy it is to exploit that. So I think it's just to be acutely aware of the dangers out there, but also conversely, technology is now effectively democratized. So the good and all the bad and all the good guys, everybody's got access to these tools, and we are seeing how technology is being used and tech is being used for good. I mean, like Gracie, the one chatbot Gracie by Street Grace. It's an AI chatbot that has more than 100 personas, Lynn, of adolescent teens. And what that means, and those personas were kind of built around massive amounts of transcripts where sex buyers try to engage minors and people in prostitution online. So we've got incredible AI tools out there that now starts up a conversation or responds to an intent by a sex buyer to solicit sex from a minor. And as soon as that criminal intent becomes clear, Gracie simply hands over that conversation to a law enforcement official. The law enforcement official takes over, and an offline arrest can be made. So again, AI presents a lot of threats and kind of dystopian ideas that it conjures up. But let's be hopeful that through active citizenry, we need to be holding big tech accountable. There needs to be guardrails in place, and let's celebrate innovation and creativity and use chatbots like Gracie to go after the bad guys.
I love that you brought that out because the public does not know about that. These are the things that we have to constantly raise awareness about because a lot of mainstream media, they simply don't cover these things. They just don't. They will of course spend endless hours on the Epstein story because for some reason they get their clicks and web traffic and it's power and it's money and glamour in their opinion. That's what they think. But these are the like kind of nuts and bolts, Marcel, I talk about that the public needs to know about that they can implement. I'm a great believer in as someone like yourself, fights more on the federal level and the global level as well, that we community creates the change. That it's kind of twofold. So there's always legislation, policy, law enforcement, but at the same time, while all that's happening, nobody can sit around and wait. You have to take action in your
So
own home.
true.
So
So true.
I feel like we have to be partners in this, on both levels.
Mm,
Give us some more ideas that the public, it's again, January is human trafficking, prevention month, awareness month, whatever you want to call it. What do you want to see people do? Because just today I've been talking about the Apple iPhone did an update for
mm,
something called Journal. Have you heard about this? It's a new app. It just
mm,
appeared on my, see, nobody knows about it. I'm talking about it all
mm,
day because I found it on my phone. I
mm,
got I got an update yesterday that said, would you like your Apple iPhone updated? And they don't really tell you what it's about. It's just a 17.2 iOS update. Okay. iPhone operating system is what iOS is because
mm,
somebody asked me before. And I look and it's something called Journal. A new app just appeared on my phone. Then I said, what is this Journal this morning? And I started looking and people are saying in tech that it just appeared. There's no parental supervision. And it's supposed to be, children can, or anybody can put their thoughts, their photos. Again, we hear this a lot with these different apps, it's private. I almost want to make an analogy to Snapchat, it'll disappear or something like that.
mm.
When we know that this is dangerous, it can be
Yep.
locked down. They're comparing it to a vault, right?
Mm,
That can only be undone with facial ID. So if you bought your child, an
mm,
iPhone, I think the parents, the guardians, grandparents, community needs to know, okay, this is out there. How are we going to talk to our kids about this to be safe? Because as you pointed out, we live in a digital world. I don't want to
yeah.
give it back. Like I don't want to give it back or shut it down. How do we
Mm,
remain safe, and relevant and use it for good? So everybody I think needs to know today about Journal and what it is and how to talk to their kids. But give us some other ideas as we 2024. I great believer in hope. I think it's going to be a good year. I think there's going to be a lot of breakthroughs. I see a lot of new warriors talking about these issues, educating their kids, wanting to know more. What
mm.
do you think? What is your thoughts for the future this year?
Well, coming back to the issue of active citizenry, Lynn, speak to your local lawmakers, leaders in your community, and raise these three things at local level, and share these any experiences related to harm. Every now and then, I mean, I've had so many conversations, Lynn, over the years, where somebody shares, a parent phones me, or a local leader, and they say, well, this is an incident that literally just happened with my phone, or somebody reaching out on Facebook or WhatsApp, etc. And unfortunately, many of those terrible scenarios stay confined in a conversation between two people, or maybe the teacher and a parent. No, this need to be shouted out from the rooftops. We need to, whether you go to the media or you go to your local lawmaker or politician, it needs to be documented. I always say it needs to be written down. If it's not written down, it actually never happened. If you know what I'm talking, proverbially speaking, we need to keep an audit trail of these incidents. We need to report them to the police. We need to report them to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. We can share that number now. But we need to be talking about this and lobby our local news, radio, TV stations. Lynn, what you are doing now is incredibly important. You're effectively part of the solution and ventilating all of these issues. So I think the first thing is document harms or possible harms and risks. Report them, whether it's to the police, your local councillor or a mayor, and get the media involved. The media are often great catalysts for sharing stories, and by reading these stories, other people come along and say, well, That's exactly what happened to me. This is exactly the app that my daughter used. So I think in that way, we can really create a non-linear stirring where, this boil over to a much larger city, county, state level, and hopefully reaching Congress around the corner here in DC. But I think there's incredible power in people speaking and raising their voices. There's something that emerges from that that can really shift paradigms and shift systems. And I always say the following thing: it's very easy to become despondent and say the system doesn't work the way it should or doesn't meet expectations. And I've seen this elsewhere in the world. There is incredible power in one. I have seen how individuals, by contacting their, raising people around them, what you are doing, Lynn, as well, and really creating that momentum. That can be done. We've seen how individuals raising their voices around the issue of Pornhub. That started 5 years ago. My goodness. Now almost everybody in the space know about Pornhub and know about, the complicity in serious crimes related to child sexual abuse, material, sex trafficking, etc. So yeah, just be active, and always apply a healthy dose of skepticism, and never think that you kind of a lone voice, you cannot do something. You can always do something, and always be aware of slacktivism, right? It's very easy to kind of point fingers and complain and just sit on the couch. True activism is actually being out there, knowing what the crimes are, knowing what the apps are that pose a lot of danger, and really be out there and helping other people to understand this. It's not just connecting the dots. We need to collect the dots first before we connect them. And once it's connected, we can show others what this pattern of activities is that we see.
Those are great final words. I know you're a busy warrior. I could speak to you for hours on end. So I hope we will talk again in the near future. I want everybody to know in the body of this, we will have all of your information. All of you've done some terrific writing recently. So I'm going to list everything out so everybody can take their time, study up, know what is really going on. Marcel Vanderwatt, you are a true warrior. Everybody can find you on X. I almost said Twitter, X Twitter, Marcel_HT, also end sexualexploitation.org. Please be safe. Thank you so much for the work you do. You empower me. And you know what? There is power in numbers. So everything you said is what we need to instill and empower in other people. Thank you for joining us today. We will talk again soon.
Thank you, Lynn.